Hier Adventure-Treff-Korrespondent Basti 007 und ich war vor kurzem in München unterwegs und habe dort einen Regisseur getroffen, Ilya Naishuller, der jetzt gerade heute mit einem neuen Kinofilm startet, nämlich Hardcore Henry. Das ist ein Film, der für Computerspieler in gewisser Weise interessant ist, denn er ist komplett aus der Ich-Perspektive gedreht und sieht so ein bisschen aus wie, wie halt so Ego-Shooter. Ist auch ein sehr actiongeladener Film, also eigentlich nichts, was jetzt an ein Adventure erinnert. So die Assoziationen sind eher so in Richtung Call of Duty, Mirror's Edge, Counter-Strike, die ganzen klassischen Ego-Shooter-Sachen. Da nimmt der Film sehr viel Anleihen daran. Und man kann dazu wirklich sagen, er ist wirklich von Anfang bis Ende in Ich-Perspektive gedreht. Sie haben dazu GoPros benutzt. Und das fand ich dann doch ganz interessant, weil es ja doch irgendwie einen Bezug hat zu Computerspielen. Und ich habe mich mit ihm hingesetzt, mich mit ihm ein bisschen unterhalten und ihm natürlich dabei auch die Frage gestellt, ob man nur Ego-Shooter als Kinofilm-Variante produzieren kann oder ob er sich auch vorstellen könnte, mehr so narrative Spiele sowie Adventures zu produzieren. Das war eine der Fragen und natürlich habe ich ihm noch ein bisschen mehr befragt. Das Interview habe ich mitgebracht und natürlich ganz stilecht in Ego-Perspektive gedreht. Ich sah aus wie der größte Idiot, denn ich bin mit der GoPro auf dem Kopf durch München getingelt und dabei ins beste Hotel am Platz, ins Sofitel marschiert. Ich war schon froh, dass mich die in der Lobby nicht gleich wieder rausgeschmissen haben, aber nachdem sie gemerkt haben, dass ich zu Ilya will, war alles in Ordnung. Hier ist das Interview. Viel Spaß und für alle, die sich für Action-Kino und Computerspiele im Ego-Look interessieren, ist Hardcore Henry ein echter Tipp. Ab heute im Kino in Deutschland. Viel Vergnügen. I heard you wanted to showcase the movie to Quentin Tarantino on a Reddit. So have you been able already to show it to him?
No, because once it was ready, I left. We played at a festival in Texas, and I went home to do the Russian version, and I missed that opportunity out. But it's not that I don't think it's that difficult to arrange because we have the same agent. We have to ask him to ask Quentin, and if he's in the mood. Then one of his music supervisor worked with us, so kind of have a bit of a connection.
Okay, and obviously you worked with Tim Ross, who worked with Quentin as well in Four Rooms or Reservoir Dogs, and also, of course, with Charlton Copley, we know from Neil Blomkamp movies, District 9 and Chappie and so on. So how this came about? Was it just an agent stuff, or did you know each other already?
I met Tim Roth before, and Timur Bekmambetov, our producer, knew Charlton. I just said that we should get an actor for this. Someone's gonna be great, and he's like, "Who do you think?" And I said, "Let's get. Can we talk to Charlton?" And we did. The next day, I talked to him, and I just pitched him the film. There was no script at that point. I just said it's a POV movie in Russia, very experimental. I've never made a film before. Crew was very inexperienced, very little budget, probably not enough time. What do you think? And he said, "Sure. If you write me a part, none of these things scare me."
Okay, so it was not difficult at all to convince them to do this.
No, it was not. I'm very lucky. It's because it's an interesting project, and people do gravitate towards interesting stuff.
Okay, that's interesting. So I think the only one who needed to be convinced at first, I think, was you.
Yeah.
I think that Timur tried to convince you because you thought it's not possible to make a feature-length POV movie.
Yeah, I thought that's not a great idea. I didn't want to start I didn't want to make my first film be based on the gimmick, because to begin with, it's a gimmick, and the question is it possible to transcend the gimmick and make a proper film out of it? And it took about a week for me to sort of click and understand how it can potentially work for 90 or 100 minutes. It was I feel the same hesitation in some people. Like, I read Twitter a lot, and people are like, "Oh, I don't know, it's gonna make me sick. It's not gonna work for 90 minutes." That's exactly what I thought in the beginning. I have I get motion sick very easily, so I had to make sure the film was shot as comfortable as it can get. So there's a lot of things that you have to think about, except not just the story, the action, but the overall feel. And it was a lot of trial and error. That's why it took me 3 years to make.
Absolutely. So what do you think is the most different thing from making a POV movie compared to a regular movie? Is the motion sickness the most difficult thing, or what's the most difficult
motion sickness? It's technical. You start figuring out we made some magnetic stabilization rigs, and that took care of that. Did a lot of tests, so altogether that was a technical difficulty. I think the difficulty is, I'm trying to think what the most difficult thing is. It's not having any points of reference.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Because if you want to do a gangster movie, you look at Goodfellas and be like, I want to try and beat Goodfellas. That's the level, that's the bar, right? That's how I think if I was to do a gangster film, I'd do that. If I would do a war film, I'd look at the best, like a Saving Private Ryan or what have you. Here, you're like, I want to do an action POV film, and you have nothing to look at. You have video games, but I didn't study video games. I didn't. I did not. There's just, I looked at this. There's great scenes in films before, and there were films that tried to do, like 1947 Lady in the Lake did that, and it was not very good. It was a failed experiment. But that taught me that the guy shouldn't talk. Not video games. People think it's Half-Life. It's not Half-Life. It's Lady in the Lake, because the guy talked in there, and that was a part of the reason why the film doesn't work for me personally. So it's, I think the lack of references is the biggest thing. So you pretty much have to come up with new stuff all the time.
Absolutely. So you said already, obviously, it's a POV movie. It has references somehow from the visual style to video games.
Of course.
You didn't study video games, but do you play video games?
When I say I don't study it, it means I didn't look at it and be like, okay, here they do this, we're going to copy that over there. No, I played a lot of video games, and I haven't played for a while now. We're making the film. That's the downside of making a movie. You don't have time to watch films, read books, and play games. Sure. But the reason it feels so close to video games, because when we see the first person perspective, it's usually video games, right? Or porn. That's two things that really use it. Everything else it's sometimes you get little bits and pieces here and there, but not fully. So the key was making a film. If I wanted to make a video game, I go and make a video game. I wanted to make a film, and I wanted to have a unique cinematic experience, and that meant I couldn't borrow too much from video games. Like, there's no heads-up display. There's no sort of. It's still a film. It has to be a film. It's just told through a visual that is closer associated with video games.
Obviously, if you think about first-person video games, mostly they are shooters, obviously. So, of course, Hardcore is a very action-oriented movie. Yeah. But there are also first-person games that are more slower and tell stories. Puzzles, whatever. Do you think this is something that would be possible in movie making, in POV movie making as well? Or is action...
I think that... Well, in the beginning, I didn't think an action movie in POV would work for 90 minutes, and that works. And that's just a question of sitting down and thinking about it. You can make a romantic comedy in POV. You can make, you have to think. I don't have the answers how to do it, but I'm sure if I would put my head to it, I would solve it. It's like it's a puzzle. That's what it starts off as a puzzle. Before you get to the really creative side, you just figure out what are the beats you want to hit, sort of the feeling you want to get. Once you have all that, you can start to sort of work with a story and etc.
Yeah, and as it seems, the puzzle paid off for you, because I think even the studios were in a bidding war for the movie. So congratulations on that. And but before that you turned to your fans via crowdfunding on Indiegogo. So how was your experience with crowdfunding, and would this be something you would consider probably doing again?
My experience was fantastic. We hit the mark that we were aiming for. I think we got 255,000. We asked for 250, so we made it. It was always I was always very nervous to go, because you're asking people for money for a project that doesn't. In the beginning, we thought about doing it right away after Bad Motherfucker. The music video came out. We thought, let's do it right now. We would have made a lot more money because the video was hot. But I said, let's wait till we have a cut of the film. And if the film works and it's good, then we can ask for money. Because I'm putting my name out there. I'm going, guys, I need some help. You don't want to, go for help. You only have one chance to do that. So will I do it again? No, because people supported me this time. We made the film. We sold the film. Hopefully it comes out and hopefully it makes a little bit of money. And that's it. I always think in terms of films, it's one time. I understand why musicians do it for each album. That kind of makes sense. But for film, it's, we got that chance. I got the support. So thank you very much. And next thing, I'll figure it out on my own and get some investors. And
Okay, cool. So it's especially good, obviously, if you want to have a kickstart. Obviously, you have Kickstarter as the other platform. So you think it's probably still... It's a good idea for young directors to go that way, probably?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think there isn't a right answer. There's some projects that work like that, and some projects that have failed to connect. It's wonderful. We're living in a time when someone can... I think I'm a great example of someone who just did music videos for my band. I didn't do them to prove anything. I just did it because I wanted to have a good time, make a video that I liked, and maybe push my band a little bit. And then I get to do a film, and then I'm sitting 3 years later. I'm talking to you right here in Germany, right? It's exciting, and that shows that you don't need too much to make an impact on the world to be able to get more stuff to play with in a way. we're living in a time and place where it's fantastic to be a filmmaker. You can have a film made if you have a cell phone, just an iPhone. That's it. So
You can make an interview if you have a GoPro.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got it. I mean, do you ever see Tangerine?
Not yet.
Tangerine, shot in an iPhone. Looks wonderful, feels wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, so it's there's no longer an excuse.
Yeah.
So yeah, people should just get out there and do stuff.
Great message.
Yeah, it's just a simple thing, you know, like the Russian space guy, Gagarin, the first man in space. He always said the same thing. He said a pilot has to fly. That's it. A filmmaker has to make films.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if they're good or bad. You just have to start and you learn and you get better. And then, you know, sooner or later, you'll either find out one of the two things. One, you're good and this is going to get you somewhere. Two, you're not very good. You should stop and find something else to be good at.
Yeah.
But you have to go.
Absolutely. And you find out, obviously, that POV filmmaking is possible. You made your own rig, which is much better than what I'm wearing on my head right now, because I have it even on the not best position. I think it should be somewhere
on the mouth.
On the mouth somewhere. But if I would have it on the mouse, we couldn't talk. So I hope bear with me. Yeah. I saw pictures of the rig with 2 GoPros on it, and I think also with 1 GoPro. So is it possible to shoot with 2 GoPros at the same time to make 3D movies, or what was the reason?
I hate 3D. So the reason we have 2 cameras is not for 3D. One is a camera that had a viewfinder for the stunt or the actor to have a look at the framing. It's out of focus because it's too close to the eye, but you can at least see what you're what you're cutting off.
I see.
And the second one had a transmitter going to a wire going to a transmitter that would transmit to playback in shitty proxy quality the material, because you can't have both the viewfinder and maybe on this one this is a 3, so that's the one we used. So we even had the older generations, so I think the new ones can do both, but it was just a technical necessity to be able to film like that.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So did you teach your stuntman what camera work is? So, because obviously he's the cameraman.
Yeah. Aren't that many stuntmen shooting. It was really, there was 2 guys who shot 3/4 of the film, Sergey and Andrei, and they aren't like stuntmen. They're just guys who can do a little of parkour, and they listen carefully, and I explain and they follow my instructions. With the stunt guys, for the complicated stuff, like, you know, being on fire and flying out of the bus while you're on fire, that you need a specialist for, because it's too risky and dangerous. So pretty much we just went through the motions. We rehearsed a lot with them. We looked at the material. I showed them what they were doing wrong. It's just, you just talk it through and then you just get it. It's a lot of just trial and error. That's the whole thing.
Was it strange for directors to react to people wearing such rigs?
Yeah, I think a couple of days for Charlotte to get used to it. It's like even right now, you have the camera up there. So if you told me to look at the camera like I'm doing now, and we started talking, I would go back to your eyes, because it's a natural instinct to look at the eyes. So that was a bit of a pain. But then the second day we put on these mirrored shades, and he stopped noticing the eye move. Because the guy who's here, he'd be like this, he'd be like, It's hard, especially like I shot some scenes with him, like the dialogue scenes. And it's a pain in the ass. I'm sitting next to him, so I'm telling him what to do, and I'm also looking at him, I'm judging him, and then I'm being a camera, trying to interact with him. Like so, there was an interesting process for him. He said it's the most difficult film he's ever worked on. So.
Oh, crazy. Okay. So, but I think that's probably also the interesting part about hardcore, because it was it's an action movie, but very experimental. Yeah. And
the best part is that it's no longer experimental. You see, the word experimental. Yeah.
You have like Grimsby or something like that. They even borrow the idea
I was supposed to shoot that scene for Sacha Baron Cohen. I met him. I was about to do hardcore, and he offered for me to shoot second unit action. And I would have never. I don't want to shoot second unit action for anybody, but for him I would have, because I love Sacha Baron. But hardcore started, I couldn't do that. So instead what I did was, after we shot 50 days, I was in LA, and I gave him, and I sat down with him and Louis Leterrier, and we just watched some scenes, and I explained what to do and what not to do. But they did it differently. They didn't keep it in POV. They kept cutting it away, which is not, I'm not a fan of that, just because it takes you out. I don't see the point of the POV, unless you're there. Like with hardcore, the idea was that 100% of the time you are the guy, and this way you're truly in it. But
it's okay for you if other one pretty much borrow your ID now, because
it's not my look. I don't have a patent for POV. It's like it's good. I wouldn't want to. I mean, I can't wait for hardcore to come out. Someone's going to get inspired. Someone's going to do the next thing, and I'll actually go to the theater and watch someone else's work. And I think that's that's fantastic. It'd be nice to see how people solve the problems that we've been solving.
So you think that POV is something we might see more often in cinemas?
Think the world is run on precedence, the
Yeah.
cinematic world. So if hardcore makes enough money, people will want to try to do that. If it doesn't make any money, then people will not try to do that. They'll put bits and pieces, in films,
Yeah.
but not full features. I don't know. I'm guessing here.
So, hardcore is the one part of where things are experimental and where having POV as an aspect for immersion is taken into consideration and is produced. And another part which is obviously looking also into immersiveness is things like VR glasses, like Oculus or the Samsung and so on. They all try to make immersive experiences by using glasses and putting somebody in their own eyes into different spaces, like games did for a long time. Is VR something you think is interesting for movie makers as well? Is it something that would interest you?
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a big branch out from the main cinematic world, and there's a lot of fantastic potential there. Downside for me personally is that once you start making stuff for VR, it's going to be a solitary experience where you're going to be sitting at home with that thing. You're not going to be sitting in a dark room full of strangers, which I always found interesting, because if you think about it, there's no other time in our lives when we enter a black room and there's something that goes on the screen, we get sound, and we sit there with 200, 300, 400 people we've never met before, and we have this shared sort of experience. And I think VR will lose some of that until we get multiplayer VR movies, which we will have. There's 100 people with the helmets in one big scene. So there's a lot of cool stuff to look forward to.
And you would probably consider to do VR movies if somebody would approach you, or do you see yourself as the guy for the large screen?
I think I would like to be the guy that does cool stuff. It doesn't matter if it's a large screen, if it's Netflix, if it's if it's on TV. I mean, it's at the end of the day, what matters is if it's good or not.
I think that's an interesting approach because like 10 or 20 years ago, movie business was pretty structured. I think at least that was my impression. Was really structured, and you have your screenwriter and your musician and your director and so on, and it has its hierarchy, and movies were just produced that way. And now, as more and more media converts together, like games converts a little bit to movies, movies to games, and VR, it's not just a games stuff anymore, but probably also movies stuff. So media gets more creative and comes together more. So would you agree that this is a tendency that I movie makers are probably not just movie makers, but creative inventors?
I don't think it's.
Storytellers?
I think some people are, but I think generally the hierarchy that you talked about, that's all there. It still get made by the same process. You still need the writer. You still need the actors, you need the executives to do it, you need producers, the investors. There's a big list of people that you need to make a film. And we're talking about proper film. I'm sure you can do smaller things on a small scale. You can do everything and put up on YouTube. That works as well. There's just different approaches. The classic approach is still there, and that's where the big money is. There's a smaller approach of just, going on your own and doing your thing. It's, whatever makes you happy.
Okay. Yeah. From your experience of hardcore and your movie experience and your creative experience, what would your suggestion be to people who try to be also creative and find new ways? What do you think is a good advice?
Like I said, the key is you have to just go and make them. You got to go shoot your stuff. If you're a writer, go write some stuff. If you're a writer, write some stuff, send some stuff to... If you're a writer, you should find somebody who wants to direct and get him to direct your work. Or if you don't trust them, which is fine, go shoot it yourself. And find actors. Everyone has friends who know somebody who can act a little bit. And everybody has a friend that looks kind of interesting, and you look interesting, you're more interesting on camera. Get that guy, give him your lines, shoot it. There's been plenty of precedents of people just getting their friends and shooting small things, and that becomes something much bigger. The important thing is, don't sit around your ass waiting for someone to be like, hey, you're a genius. No one's gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. What's gonna happen is you're gonna have to prove. My story is, 7 years ago, I was writing lots of scripts. I had like 3 scripts that I thought were really, really good. They weren't great, but they were good enough to sort of enter the production, or not enter production, but get cracking on and making like the next draft to get it made. And I met a producer who I had no respect for. He's producer director. He's made like 9 films in Russia. I hated all these films, but he was very successful. He's a smart guy. And I met him, and I gave him my script, and he starts giving me like just a bunch of bullshit reasons why you can't start a film with a scene that doesn't feature the hero. I'm like, what are you talking about? I can name you 100 great films that don't start with a hero scene. etc., etc. And so I realized I don't want to listen to this guy because I just don't agree with his philosophy on how you're supposed to do stuff. And he says, look, Ilya, you might be a genius, but you can't show me a certificate, can you? And the point being, I didn't have anything to be like, trust me, I'm good at what I do, this is what I've done. And then Bad Motherfucker comes out, and that's a certificate. I'm not saying it's a genius piece of work, but I think it's a pretty damn great video. And what you have to do is you have to get to that point. You have to have that one thing that people really enjoy and really respond to, and that becomes your bullet. It becomes your ammunition. You can be like, look, this is what I want to do, and something like that. But you got to have something, and no one's going to come to you and give you that bullet, that ammunition. You have to make that yourself. So just get out there and do it. And usually the first thing you'll do will suck, and that's fine. Everybody's first work was never great. You go back and you think about it a little bit. You listen to some people, you listen to some comments. It's easy. You go on YouTube, people will shit on you all the time. So you grow a thick skin, and then you just come back and keep doing it. And like I said, either you're going to find out that you're actually good, or you can have the potential to be good, or you're never going to be great. And that's fine as well. Just go find something else.
If you want to be creative, you need to create stuff.
You have to. It's, yeah.
Great.
What's the point otherwise?
Ilya, thanks very much for the interview and the talk. Very interesting points. And we see each other again, I think, tonight at Fantasy Film Fest premiere here in Germany. And I'm really looking forward to it. I've not yet seen the movie, but
I hope you enjoy it.
I'm really sure I will enjoy it. Any ideas what you will do next? Is anything you can already forecast?
I probably shouldn't. I know what we're talking about.
But you can if you want.
I want to say that it's going to be something good. The important thing is, this hardcore took 3 years. It's a pretty long time. I've been in a vacuum for 3 years. I've been working every day on this thing. And so now I'm like, what? There's life outside and I can read a book? It's crazy. And I loved every minute of it. Even if it was really complicated and difficult, there was dark moments when we thought we're fucked. I persevered, and I had enough willpower to just keep going. But that was all really powered on the fact that I believed in what I was doing. So whatever I do next, I want to have the same basic level of belief, and potentially, I started hardcore thinking, you get this right, the whole world will see it. So that made me work really hard at it and believe in it nonstop. I want to do whatever I do next has to have the same basic potential, at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we wish you good luck that this basic belief will come to you, and are looking forward to your next project.
Thank you.
And now I'm looking forward to hardcore.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming to Germany.
Well, thanks for having me.
Okay.
This is fantastic. Yeah.
And I hope my GoPro still runs.
It runs. I was looking at it.
Oh, very good. Perfect.
We're professionals. I wouldn't let you
I'm not a professional.
Neither am I.
Okay, thanks a lot.